Good morning, guys and gals. We're back in Bristol this morning, back into the move and breathe. It's just as pretty here as it was in Middle Tennessee, so maybe even prettier in its own unique way. This year the honeysuckle is really, really strong. The smells, you just kind of run into a wall of that smell. So the move and breathe is really about sucking all that stuff up, getting that good stuff in your heart, mind, and life, and just getting outside, getting moving and breathing. So let's go over the basics again. Hopefully you've already encountered the Lord and gotten yourself into worship. Worship is associated with gratitude, right? We worship something that we understand is giving us really good things, and because He's given us really good things, we worship it. That's why you want to worship something true that actually is giving you something good. We worship idols a lot of times that are giving us something, but it's giving us something that's killing us. So we want to be worshiping the one true, life-giving God, love-giving, God of love, purpose-giving, mission-giving, inheritance-giving God. We want to get into a state of worship in the morning as we spend time with Him. And then the move and breathe is another aspect of the morning routine that's going to help you internalize or get it into your physiology. See, because you've had some experiences in the spirit and inside here that are difficult to communicate to the soul. And so what you got to do is try to bridge that spiritual sight and understanding into the soul and the body. See, because the body is just an earth suit. That's all it is. It's a suit given to us so that we can live in this world, in this realm. It gives us touch points for what this is and what that is. And so it's sort of dumb as it's a masterpiece. Of course, it's incredibly how we're made is just astonishing. However, it's dumb. It has to be told things. It has to be led through things. And so you got to be making sure that you're getting up every day and you're giving to the body the truth. This is the framework. This is what we're living by. And again, we've talked about how we've already got a framework. In other words, we got a whole map system of thinking already downloaded. And see, that's what we're up against, is what's already been downloaded. It's already in here. You've got trees, so to speak, or root systems that have already been developed over many suns have gone down over your thinking patterns and over the things that have happened to you, and you have built roadways. They're already mapped out. They're already identity-based. You and how you respond to everything is already in there. See, that's what we're up against now, because in Christ we have become a brand new being. Okay, and you're not familiar with that person. They run counter to this old map. And so the move and breathe is you getting up and fighting this fight. The first thing you want to do is just to get with the basics, is you want to get into some good breathing patterns. So the one that I suggest, it doesn't really matter though, just breathe deeply is what we're talking about. Through your nose and out your mouth, I believe, is best. But I suggested this pattern of now there's a reason behind that. However, that's the one I suggest. You get into a rhythm of that, about 5-10 minutes of that. Really juice your system with oxygen. Get that brain is a muscle in essence. Get that brain full of oxygen. You're going to be more creative. You're going to be thinking better thoughts, and then you're getting into that gratitude, and you really want to pour it on. Hopefully you're already in the gratitude because you've spent time with the Lord, but you really want to pour it on with some specifics and get good at this. Like, practice it. Write down things in your journal. I used to do and still do sometimes this gratitude journal in which I get into the details, like when I'm inspired about, for instance, Arita, the wife that God's given me. You know, there's moments where you see the beauty in her, and the qualities that you understand are just very impactful for you personally, and you just see it. You're like, I know why God brought this person to me, and I'm so grateful for that. And so you want to write that out. You want to articulate that very, very well so that you have a reference, because again, we forget, right? We're in this negative realm and we forget those details, and that's going to turn down the gratitude a little bit. You know, you might not win that battle every day if you don't have some of this stuff well articulated. So you want to go through your whole life about why you are grateful. You want that to be a masterpiece of your own work, because see, that's what you fight with. And when you've done that well, you got all that to kind of bounce off of and just pour it on. Just gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. That's going to get you strongly in a receivership mode, so to speak. It's going to train you to be looking at what's right instead of what's wrong. It's going to train you to be grateful for what you have rather than thinking about what you don't have, because what that's going to that's a major, that's huge. That's life right there. And so you want to be practiced in the right way. Now, why am I hammering home at this? Because I know what it is to be focused on what you don't have only. I know what it is to live a life that makes you go down that road of what you're not grateful for as opposed to what you are, and it's hell. You don't want anything to do with it. So see, you want to restructure, reframe, renew, as Romans 12:1 and 2 would say. Renew your mind to the truth, to a light living in the light, to a life living in the light. And this is one of the ways that you do that. And then after you're really juiced in gratitude and worship, you get into the specifics of your vision for life. What are those specifics? And again, this is something else. You're building on this. Every day you're asking the Lord more specifically, show me what I'm on this earth for. Give me more details about who I am. What do you say about me? And again, that's another thing. You want to journal heavily about this. You want to have written, well articulated documents on the whys and the what fors and the who I am and what I'm here to do, because you got to fight to live that out. See, we're taking land. God has given us all of this through his work, but we have to take it. It's not a gift that he just hands to us in terms of here's your entire inheritance. No, we get to work it out and live it out. And if you live out the identity he's given you, you will be more than a conqueror, and you will be overcoming on a daily basis, which means you're bringing impact and influence to this realm that you live in, to this life, to your family, to the workplace, to wherever you go. But again, it's not going to just, the world's not going to part for you. It's going to part for you when you stand up straight and strong and you live with purpose and you have a new foundation of faith about who you are and the place that you have in this world, and then you live it out. And that's going to take courage and strength and boldness. You're going to have to learn how to fight, and that's what this is. You are learning to fight here. This is the you got to do this. You got to do this. So here's what we're up against. I want to share this with you today. It has to do with gratitude. And it has to do with vision for life. But why? Why do we have to do this? Sometimes understanding the default settings that will motivate us to why we got to do this every day. Two things here. You're talking about guilt and shame. These are two very powerful emotions that we are going to face every day. Guilt is actually a healthy one. Guilt is about a bad or wrong action. You're going to get guilt when you do something wrong. Now, guilt is not always, sometimes you're guilty over something that really you shouldn't be guilty over. So you got to think about, what am I guilty about and why am I guilty about it? And you got to have some people around you who can share. Now, the Lord can share with you the truth about it, and He will. But sometimes it's just kind of, I get all kinds of guilt over things that I shouldn't. It has, especially as a pastor and as a father, if you really want to do well at what you're doing, then you're always thinking about, oh, I should have done that, or I should have done this, or I should have, being a pastor, you always have these I should haves going all the time. That you ought to be there, and you ought to be here, and you ought to be saying that, you ought to be doing it that way, and you can't do it. And so I deal with guilt all the time. It's really one of my big problems. But all of that guilt is not true. That's not coming from the Lord. But guilt, in essence, is a good thing because it's pointing out something that's wrong, potentially. Now, I'm going to have guilt over sin too, because that stuff is wrong and it does need to change, and these are problems. So guilt in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's just it's sort of like the engine light's on, the oil light's on. I got to check that oil. What's going on here? Is there a leak somewhere? Do we just need to add some? I mean, what's happening? Does that make sense? So there's one aspect, but here's the other one. This is the devastating one. Shame is going to come with the guilt sometimes. Okay, now shame is different than guilt. Shame is not based on an action. Shame, in other words, guilt says you did a bad thing. Shame says you are a bad thing, right? It's identity based. Shame is identity based. And it's always going to be pinging off of the guilt that you are feeling for whatever it is that you did. Shame doesn't care. Shame is the most devastating emotion that a person can live with. It's going to destroy you, and that's really what we're up against. See, because before you came to the Lord, you built an entire network, a grid of thinking that is shame-based. In other words, you are wrong, you are bad, you are X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank. And it's negative. It's an identity of negativity. Okay, so when we get born again, obviously that is gone. That old identity is gone. However, the roadmap is still in here and it's still functioning. You're still pinging off of it. And if you don't get to the bottom of your guilt appropriately and in the light of truth, then shame is going to kick in. And shame, again, is an identity. I am bad. And once you, listen, this is the power of identity. Once you have linked into an identity, it's like victimhood. Once you've linked into, if a person links into I am a victim, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're always going to be a victim. See, you've given your power away with that faith statement of identity. There's nowhere to go except to be a victim. See, so it's insidious. Shame is the same thing. Once you've said yes to an identity of I am bad, for whatever reason that badness is, it's all a little nuanced for each one of us. That's all you can do. That's all you can be. And so, see, shame has to be destroyed, and that is done by confession of weakness and sin. It's done by having your heart open to another person and letting them see you and share with you truth. Now, God can do this, but He's invisible, and He's a spirit, and it doesn't really hit the body and soul like a human being that we can really touch and hear and see does. See, so we have to have one another helping us through these identity-based traps. Now, with shame, here's the other insidious part of shame. With the framework of shame as an identity, what's built in there is such a strong emotion that says, do not share this. The worst thing you can do is share this. That's what shame says. It's within the framework, okay? I mean, and this is real. Ask me how I know. So it's all in the darkness, and it's holding you. It's imprisoning you in the darkness. Shame will imprison you. It's like having a glass case over your guilt and over whatever action, to where nothing can get loose. You're just stuck. And with it is that the locked door there says, do not share. The worst thing you could do is let the light in. When the Bible says, let the light in, ye are children of light. See, we got to be open. Now, not with everybody. That wouldn't be healthy for you to share everything with everybody. You need to have a community of people. You need to have a band of brothers and sisters. You need to have a husband and a wife in which you can live in the light with, and in degrees of intimacy with those people. In other words, you ought to be sharing things with your wife or your husband that you'd not share with other people. You know, you might have some things in there that are nuanced as I'm sharing this, but the point is that you're walking in the light. You're not letting darkness imprison you in an identity of a lie. That's not true, because the enemy will beat you to death with this. And so, see, that's what we're up against. You're up against a shame-based framework that is an identity. And see, so you've got to have relationships in place. You've got to be practicing the principles put in Scripture for your own health and your own well-being. And then you've got to every day be standing up and seeing the true vision, how God sees you, understanding what it is you're up against. What you're up against is this shame-based identity, not allowing shame to drag you into darkness and imprison you there. See, because I'm forgiven, and I'm fully forgiven, and I'm loved, shame's message is you are unworthy. You are bad and therefore unworthy, and you are disconnected, and you are not worthy of the connection that you so desperately crave. That is a devastating belief. But that's what shame is. That's what shame does for each and every one of us. And you have a version of you that shame can say that about you, and you'll believe. I promise you. And see, so because of that, we wage war against it. We wage war against that lie. That's a devastating lie that will destroy you and everybody around you. It will allow sin and Satan to steal, kill, and destroy everything that's valuable to you, and everything that's beautiful, and everything that's potential in you that Jesus paid for. See, so this is so there's a lot underneath here, and we'll talk more and more about that in little bite sizes. But don't let shame drag you off into an identity that says you're not worthy. Yes, we could say that I'm not worthy, but Jesus is worthy. See, he paid for it, and you've been brought into the family because of his actions, and we all base it on his actions. It's on his perfection. It's on him. My identity is based in him. My righteousness comes from his work, not mine. So I just have to let that go. But I've got to fight the fight of who I am now. And that's what I'm up against, is my past self, and all these shame-based things that go on in here. So we got to be smarter than that. We got to rise up. We got to walk in the truth. We got to have courage to do it too. Man, it takes some courage. It takes the strength of God's Spirit in you to expose some things. And we need prayer from one another to help. Man, there is an army on this earth that's ready to be unleashed for sons and daughters of God who would begin to step into the truth and live it out, walk it out. Just imagine the army that will arise when we get free from some of these things that we've cyclically been doing, that's holding us down, holding us in the dark, keeping us from life in abundance and truth, and being the devastating warriors, the dread champions that Jesus Christ made us to be for his name's sake and for the benefit of our own lives and those we love and this planet. Man, so get up and move and breathe today. Understand what you're up against and know that it is finished. It's finished. Jesus has finished the work. You and I got to fight to step into it and to believe it. Influence your own heart in the unbelievable truth of that statement and live it out. Bless you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.